Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate, or go by AlwaysMoreSims here on YouTube, and today we are doing a catch up type video. I don't even know what to call this. I'm calling it Barbie catch up, but I don't know. I don't really know what to actually call it. So basically, for my 10-year anniversary here on YouTube, that is crazy to say every time, I made a legacy challenge. I wrote my own legacy challenge. And I actually recorded all of this last week and tried to do this voiceover last week. And I was sick last week and I had no voice and it was bad. So we're doing it now. But basically, I was recording my challenge, and one of the rules I have for the first generation is that our founder sim, like this Clara from Barbie and the Nutcracker, has to play with her imaginary friend to eventually turn it into a human sim. And I did not realize that your sim had, your child had to be born into the save in order to get one of the imaginary friends in the mailbox. I guess I never really paid much attention because typically I don't like the imaginary friends. I don't use them. So I never realized. But your sim has to be born into the save in order to have an imaginary friend. And yeah, so I actually had downloaded a mod, and the mod supposedly, I don't know, I was seeing both things when I was looking into it. I saw some people saying, because the whole point of the mod is actually to be able to sell imaginary friends when your sims get them and you don't want them. But it also gives you the ability to buy them. And some people are saying that they were just pretty much a toy, but that they did not function the same. However, I actually messaged the mod creator, and they came back and replied and said, no, it does work. That just like the regular imaginary friend, that it will turn into an imaginary friend, all this stuff. However, in the game, I was getting way too close to my sim aging up into a teenager, and I was getting really nervous that nothing was happening with the imaginary friend. It wasn't changing. It wasn't coming to life, and I only had maybe about 2 days before Clara aged up into a teenager, and so I just went ahead and said, forget this, screw it. Now, I had made all of Clara's family, so in the rules I say to have Clara, have your sim live with a grandfather type guardian figure. If you're familiar with the movie, because again, these are the whole point of this challenge is that each generation is based on one of the Barbie movies, one of the old animated Barbie movies, and we're going in order of release. So first was Barbie and the Nutcracker, and in the movie we have Clara and her younger brother Tommy both live with their grandfather Drosselmeyer, not with their parents. Now, it doesn't really elaborate, and I'll be honest, I don't know much about the Nutcracker outside of the Barbie version. I have seen the Nutcracker, but it was like a local dance studio had their kids put it on, so I don't know how faithful it was to the actual, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with Nutcracker though. So what I'm going off of is solely from the Barbie movie. But they live with their grandfather. It doesn't really elaborate why they aren't with their parents. So to make it realistic, when I first placed the household, I made Grandfather Drosselmeyer, and then I also made his brother. I don't know if he actually has a brother, but I made him a brother named Timothy, so Thomas and Timothy Drosselmeyer. Then because in the movie we have Aunt Drosselmeyer, And I'm like, okay, Aunt Drosselmeyer, which means it's not grandfather's daughter, it has to be his niece. So, like, in order to get all of the titles correct, we had to have grandfather Drosselmeyer with a sibling. So, made his brother. Then we had Elizabeth Drosselmeyer, which is the aunt. And then I actually had grandfather Drosselmeyer. I gave him the daughter, which is the mom here, who is named Margaret Roberts. And then her husband George, and canonically that's actually Barbie's parents' names are Margaret and George Roberts, and that's like Clara, who has just been born here. That's Clara's last name. Instead of taking the Drosselmeyer last name, I thought it'd be kind of fun if like kind of the challenge last name is Roberts, because of Barbie Roberts. I thought that'd be, I don't know, fun. I like having the same last name across the whole challenge, a whole legacy. But yeah, so I made the whole family. I unalived the brother, so Timothy, and then Martha, and not Martha, well, I guess her name technically is Martha, but Margaret, sorry, I'm still kind of recovering from being sick, Margaret and George, I had them all pass away, and then I had the challenge set up, and then because it didn't work with the imaginary friends, I deleted all of those Sims out of the world. We're still in the same world. It's still actually the same save file, but I replaced everybody down. Grandfather Drosselmeyer is still in his house. Aunt Elizabeth is still in the same townhouse I had her placed in. But then I kept George and Margaret alive, and I moved them into this house, which I actually built this house. I think it's called something creamsicle, because it's got like an orange theme to it. I don't know. I placed it because I told myself I was going to decorate the bedrooms, and I needed a house big enough, and then I didn't actually end up doing anything with the other bedrooms. I never even went on that side of the house. But yeah, so we played with Margaret and George, and that's basically what this video is you guys just watching me play, sped up really fast, watching. They conceived, so I had Margaret pregnant before I actually started the video, but we start like right at the beginning of her pregnancy. We saw her realize she was pregnant. I gave her a different pregnancy outfit. Then she went through the whole pregnancy. She had Clara, who's the baby, and then like we end up having, like, we'll see her get pregnant with Tommy, which is Clara's younger brother, and I wanted Margaret to be grandfather Drosselmeyer's daughter because I didn't want her to have the Drosselmeyer name. I don't know if I explained that when I said it earlier, but I wanted them to have the Roberts last name, so that's why I had grandfather Drosselmeyer be her dad and not George's dad. I don't think it really matters that much, but yeah, so we're having like a feast day party. I get the feeling that these Sims will find any excuse to have a party, basically. And then because story progression loves to progress, Aunt Elizabeth and grandfather Drosselmeyer are both in relationships at this point. Now, when we get to the very end and I move Clara and Tommy in with grandfather Drosselmeyer, I do have him break up with his girlfriend, which is the lady sitting at our dining room table in the blue shirt. I do have him break up with her because I have no interest in having him pursue a romantic relationship. But Elizabeth is married. I don't think her husband came to our party, though. She's the lady walking around in the red dress. But yeah, I just feel like these guys would find any excuse to throw a soiree. So that's what we did. And yeah, so I don't know what to talk about for the next 17 minutes. If you're interested in the speed build for this house, I'll try to link it down below. I have my Legacy challenge rules listed in the description of all of my videos. Well, I shouldn't say all of them, but every video from my 10-year anniversary and after have all had this added to the description. So if you're interested in playing it for yourself, now knowing that, like, in order to ensure that your sim will have a functional imaginary friend, you will have to do quite a bit of backstory, preparing. You won't be able to just drop them right in. So just kind of a heads up there. I think I added that into the rules, that, hey, just a heads up. You also don't need to have the imaginary friend if, like, you absolutely despise them. I'm, like, just a step above utterly despising them, like, utter despisement. I don't know. I'm just, like, a step above that. But I will play with them for the sake of the challenge, like I did for Toy Story forever ago. Oh my gosh, that was so long ago. In my Disney Legacy challenge, for the Toy Story generation, we played with our imaginary friend. I don't know why I'm stopped there. There we go. And we turned him into a real sim. His name was Andy, because I thought it was funny that all of our kids were named after toys, and then the imaginary friend that is actually the toy is named after the human character. I thought that was really funny. But if you, like, don't want to play with the imaginary friend, you can always just have it to, like, where Clara just has this friend that she's close with as a child, and, like, they just grow up together, and I mean, that can eventually turn into Nutcracker. I don't know. Like, you don't have to do it with the imaginary friend if you don't want to, or maybe you don't have time to do all the pre-planning and setting everything up. You could just place another child sim and just have Clara be good friends, and I mean, once she hits, like, the skill requirements in the challenge, then have them, like, I don't know, start dating or something when they're older. But I really wanted to make the imaginary friend work, especially with this being, again, my challenge. And, sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. This being my challenge, and also being the first challenge, or the first generation, I didn't want it to be just, like, right off the bat not following the rules that I wrote. So I was pretty determined, but yeah. It is Claire's birthday now in game. We're having a birthday party for her, and I got a camera. So I do this in my Feig challenge, and I think I'm doing it in my In Bloom challenge as well. I think I did it in Disney Legacy, but basically I take recordings of every kid's birthday. I did hop into Create a Sim and give her a makeover, because I did want her to look a particular way. I wanted her to be blonde hair, blue-eyed, just like her mom. I can't remember if it was her or if it was Tommy, but one of them is born with gray hair, because it pulls the genetics from Clara's dad, who has gray hair, and I was like, absolutely not. But I can't remember if it was Clara or Tommy who had the gray hair, and I had to go in and change it. But yeah, basically I wanted Clara to look like their mom, and I wanted Tommy to look like their dad, and that's how I originally had it in, like, when I first tried playing through. Clara was blonde hair, blue-eyed. Tommy was a brunette with gray eyes, which I don't think George Roberts actually has gray eyes, but I was just like, yeah, you know what, we'll keep it. Yeah. What else? I don't even know. Maybe I'll just put some music on. We can just jam out to some music. I got us caught all the way up to Clara aging up into a child. And then I aged Tommy up early into a toddler so that I could move them in with grandfather. And that's where this leaves off. And then tomorrow we will have part 1 up of trying again with the challenge. So kind of our retry. And yeah, pretty much starting how we started it the first time around with, Clara a child, Tommy a toddler, moved in with grandfather Drosselmeyer. That's how I started it, and that's how it'll go. That's where I got us caught back up to. So, fingers crossed. I had Clara play with her imaginary friend a lot as a child, and yes, his name is Nutcracker, which is another thing that the custom content imaginary friend wouldn't let me do. It wouldn't let me rename the imaginary friend. It kept saying that only the owner could rename it, and I'm like, well, who's the owner? Because for a while it wouldn't let Tommy play with it, but then when Tommy aged up into a child, it did. And so I don't know. I don't know if I broke it or what happened. Also, I have to say, I love this houseboat being the elixir consignment store, the alchemy. That's what I wanted. The alchemy consignment store. I don't know. I love my Sims Realty worlds. I think they're so pretty. And that's what this world is. We're playing in Storybook. I think it's Storybook. Storybook County. We live in the more suburban countryside half of the world rather than the city half. So yeah, I'm so eloquent in this. I just keep again, I don't really know what to talk about. This is like 27 minutes of content of a video. It took me about 3.5 hours to play through all of this. So yeah, and I actually recorded most of this. So I was sick last week. I don't know. I think it was just like basically a really bad cough. For a while I wasn't sure I didn't have bronchitis again. I got bronchitis about a year ago, last April, so about this time a year ago, and it was awful. And I wasn't sure that I didn't. No, it wasn't April. It would have been March, because I missed my 9-year anniversary because I was sick. So, no, it would have been February then. I could have sworn it was closer to April. Okay, anyways, it doesn't really matter. But I had it last year, and it was awful, and I was afraid that I was sick like that again this year. But I don't think so. Anyways, it was, like, my cough was bad enough, and I didn't have any voice last week, and so I actually didn't go to work on Monday, and I was home, and I was recording this. I was just camped up in my office playing Sims. I had slept, like, I think part of it is the fact that I'm just not sleeping worth a darn at the moment. They just found out they're pregnant with Tommy. But I've been so tired, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm sick, is just because I'm not sleeping, my immunity is low. And again, I'm so eloquent. I just I sound like an idiot. I wasn't feeling great, and so then I got sick, and because I was sick, I then wasn't sleeping even more. No, that's not good English. I was sleeping even worse, and after I'd called in sick Monday morning, I went back to sleep and I slept for another solid like 4.5 hours. And I actually woke up feeling pretty good. Honestly, if I'd felt like it, I probably could have called in and said, hey, I can actually come in this afternoon and like just do the second half of my day. But I was like, no. I'm not happy with my job right now, and I'm not going to get into it too much. I think that might also be part of the reason why I'm sick, is because I'm stressed beyond all belief right now with my job. Like, I don't even want to think about it because it gets me really worked up really fast. But I am very discontent. I'm not happy where I am. I want out of what I'm doing. And I feel kind of stuck because I don't know what else to do, like what else I could go into. But that's about all I'll say there. So I think between not sleeping, being super stressed, has led to the weakened immunity, getting sick. And so I was like, well, if I have a day off, I am not going to go in. I'm going to take the whole day, stay home. You know, again, I slept for a while. And yeah. So, and then I don't remember what it's called. I'm going to get a drink. Hold on. I don't remember what it's called, but basically, so the muscles in my throat don't relax enough to let me burp, which sounds really stupid. And it's not me trying to be like, oh, I'm just a dainty girl. Like, no, I literally cannot burp. And pretty much the only solution for it is Botox. And I really don't want Botox. So that has also been an issue this past week. It was Wednesday and Thursday. Like, I felt I had like gas basically sitting in like my upper chest that I couldn't burp. And it was getting to the point it was getting really hard to breathe. It was making me nauseous. And the feeling only goes away if I lay down flat on my back. So that made my work day, like, I got really bad towards the end of my work day on Wednesday, like to the point that the last like 20 minutes of my day, I got all my stuff finished and I laid down on the floor of my office on my back and I watched the clock tick down until I could leave. And I got up, I left, I came home, I like tore through the house to get to my bedroom, and I went upstairs, laid down, and I finally was like, oh my god, I can breathe. So that was going on Wednesday and Thursday, and it was starting right after I ate lunch, but I was like, I don't know. Whoa. Wait. Hold on. Sorry, I just got a notification from my doctor's office saying I had a outstanding balance of almost $400 from just different appointments over the last couple of months, and it just said that it was paid. And I was like, wait, crap, did something just like automatically pull like almost $400 out of my, like, had me panicked, but it was my dad. So it's okay. I don't remember what I was saying. But yeah, no, I guess I was talking about like the whole, like, again, I don't remember what it's called. It's got like a anagram. But it's really uncomfortable. And I haven't had an issue with it for a while. I had a problem a couple years ago where I actually thought I was suffering heat stroke because I was outside and it was hot. And I don't think it was heat stroke now that I know like what this condition is. Like, again, it's so uncomfortable. It gets really tight in the chest. It's really hard to talk. It's hard to breathe. And like I cannot force a burp. I cannot like force this gas out. So it's just, it's really uncomfortable. I was miserable. So, but I was confused because it was starting right after lunch, and I meal prepped, and I had the same thing for lunch Tuesday that I had Wednesday and Thursday, and I didn't have any issues on Tuesday. But I did have issues Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm like, okay, what the heck? So it was like to the point Friday, I was so scared. I was like, it was something I was eating at lunch that I was packing myself. I had made like a small container of casserole. That was like my, main dish. And then I had grapes, and I had cheese, and I had a yogurt. And I skipped the casserole. I had half the grapes, half the cheese, half the yogurt, and that was it. And so I was pretty hungry by the end of the day, but that was all fixed. So anyways, we are now coming up on the end of the video. So I did accidentally pause recording to give Clara her makeover, and then I forgot to resume recording, which was why there was that jump there. But Clara is now a child. Tommy will get a makeover to look like he did. They are all ready to go. I'm going to move them into the new house. The new video will be up retrying the challenge tomorrow. If you'd like to check out the rules, those will be down below. Again, video will be up tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that. Thank you for watching, and bye!